Hi everyone, I'm Sonia from Soft UK. I'm their communications officer. We are running our podcast today looking at ending a pregnancy. I'm here with Laura Petrie. She's a former trustee of Soft UK, so she's very familiar with the charity and with the volunteers and the setup. And thank you so much for joining us, Laura, and sharing your story with everyone. And hopefully it will give anyone that's looking at a similar journey to themselves a little bit more of a comfort of knowing what to do or what not to do.
Okay, thank you, Sonia. Thanks for asking me to contribute. So basically back in 2006 we had a wee Edwards baby, an Edwards child called Charlotte. We knew prenatally and we had her for 6 months and 3 days. So we lost her in 2007. In May 2007, we then, during that pregnancy, we actually had contact with Soft UK, and they were a fantastic support through the decision making, and also after Charlotte was born, we had some really good support from Soft. So after we lost Charlotte, we decided to try for another baby, and in late 2007 we were pregnant again. So pregnancy was going quite well. We had the 12-week scan. There wasn't the NIPT test back then. It wasn't as advanced as it was now. So just really looking at the scan, everything looked fine at the 12-week scan. And then about 14 weeks into the pregnancy, around about February time, I had a very slight bleed. And we went to the hospital. I think it was a Friday night, and they couldn't actually do a scan, but they checked the baby's heartbeat and everything sounded fine. So they asked us to go back in on the Monday just to have another wee check. And during the scan, they found that the baby had severe brain abnormalities. So at that stage, they offered us a CVS, the chronic villus sampling, to rule any syndrome or condition out. But for us, it was so much to take in, because what we had gone through with Charlotte, to be told that there was another problem within a pregnancy, I think there was so much shock. And having had to make a decision before, and obviously having had Charlotte alive and in and out of the hospital, to be told that the baby that we were carrying wouldn't really have the best. They weren't convinced she would have a great quality of life. So
yeah,
it was a lot to take in. It was so much shock. We both went home. I felt very, very torn, because we had gone through this really emotional time with Charlotte. There was times where it was really difficult. There was times where it was just so there was moments that was really sad. There was moments that were just amazing. And to go through that roller coaster again, my husband Charlie said at the time he didn't feel that he could go down that route again. And then obviously having the loss of the child, having Charlotte alive was great, but going through the loss, he didn't feel that he could cope with that. I was quite determined to carry on the pregnancy, because I felt that I had fought so hard for Charlotte in terms of getting her access to treatments and things like that. So I felt like the end of pregnancy would be really going against the grain and everything that we had kind of pushed for with Charlotte. So it was a really difficult decision to try and make. And we actually, to be honest, we disagreed quite a bit on it. He said he couldn't be there if I chose to carry on the pregnancy. I also had a daughter. Faith would have been 4. So I had to think of her in it as well, and her experience of having a sibling. And I had to look at the whole picture, not just the baby. Yeah, and
had Faith been around when Charlotte was there?
Faith was around with Charlotte, so she had that experience of having a sibling. Although she was 3, her birthday was November, so yeah, she had between 3 and 4. She'd had that experience of having Charlotte, and I had to look at how she would be affected. She had a great experience with Charlotte being there, but I felt like the aftermath of losing Charlotte, could we put the whole family through that again? Could we be in and out of the hospital? There was so many different factors to look at as to whether carrying on the pregnancy would have been the best option. I beat myself up quite a lot about it, even after the pregnancy, because I did feel like I had let her down. But actually, looking back, I think it was okay to say to myself, being strong and pushing through and doing the right thing. Actually, sometimes being strong is about letting the child go, pushing through and thinking, right, I'm being strong by carrying on with Charlotte. It was a completely different thought process. So it just pushed against everything that, all the strength points and the positive things we had got. And it just pushed against everything that had given us some kind of hope. So to come to the decision to end the pregnancy was the hardest decision. In fact, it is and will always be, I think, the hardest decision I've ever made in my life. When they offered us the CVS, I opted not to take it because I think deep down, I knew that it wasn't anything linked to the Edwards syndrome. And I didn't have it in me. I just, deep down, I knew that I couldn't do it. And in a way, there was so many different emotions. I felt like I was having to choose between my marriage and my unborn baby. I felt like I was having to choose between my unborn baby and faith. There was so many different factors that made me, because ultimately it did come down to myself to make the decision. We were still grieving a lot for the loss of Charlotte. So again, I had to take that into consideration and where we all were as a family. And actually, I'm not going to say I couldn't say it was the right decision, but it was right decision for us as a family. It was maybe not the right decision for everyone, but taking it as an individual voice and an individual family unit, it's for me, it was looking at all the factors. And although that was a choice that I did make, and obviously for the reasons I did, it's not one that I'll never ever have to like. I think looking back, for a long time, I kept saying I was sorry to her. Like I felt so guilty because I went to the hospital and I started the whole process of ending the pregnancy. I didn't like the word termination. I still don't like the word termination because I find it quite a harsh word. But we did get time with her. So my husband was quite surprised because he didn't expect us to have an actual baby at the stage. So she was 16 weeks when I delivered. And I think he just wasn't expecting a full size, like a fully formed baby. So he got a bit of a shock. So what we did was, I think because nobody in the family was going to get to meet her, which I found absolutely heartbreaking, I wanted the family to know that she was actually so much loved and wanted. We got, the hospital were amazing. We got hand and footprints from her. We got photographs. We got a bit of time to spend with her. Having that time, I mean, it was heartbreaking. It really was heartbreaking. But I think having that bit of time and having those hand and footprints, and then we did have a small service for her with friends and family, and I got a card, on the service card, I put her hand and footprints because I wanted people to see that she was a person. For us, she was our baby. She wasn't just an unwanted pregnancy. She was a pregnancy that was very much loved and wanted, but obviously for the choices that we had to make. And is it the right decision? But for us, I would say
it was just a decision that had to be made.
And I think, looking back, did I think I was strong enough? Would I have been strong enough to carry on? I think it was actually when you're letting a baby like this go, it is absolutely, you are still just as strong going from the two, comparing the two, you're still just as strong letting a baby go. You are, it breaks you. And I think you're still grieving for this child, a bit like a forbidden grief. You've still lost this child. Had Jackie, we called her Jackie, had she not, if she hadn't had these abnormalities, these brain abnormalities, we would have obviously, the pregnancy would have carried on and she would have been here. We wanted her acknowledged as part of the family. She wasn't just, we're letting her go and that's the end of it. We had her buried with Charlotte. She's got a beautiful headstone. We go as a family to see the girls, Christmases, birthdays, anytime, we feel the need to go and past, we can go and visit their grave. So the fact that we let her go, like I let her go and I let her go beside Charlotte, I think that was my daughter with Edwards syndrome. I think that gave us a lot of comfort. It certainly gave me a lot of comfort that the girls were together. For a long time afterwards, I felt a lot of guilt.
How did you cope after everything had happened, you and your husband?
After we let her go, although we let her go, she was so much wanted. So, we did take a bit of a hit, but we pushed through. We really did push through. And Jackie actually had a post-mortem done and they were amazing. They were just great. I mean, all the people involved with her, the funeral directors, the lady that did the post-mortem, she was brilliant. She came in and spoke to us about everything. They were amazing. So afterwards, we actually went for genetic testing to see if there was anything, and nothing came back at all. which I kind of knew. But obviously when they did the postmortem, nothing did come back. So the point of this, the CVS wouldn't have shown anything anyway. So
it's very rare to have two babies trisomy related anyway, isn't it? It's a very slim chance.
And I think afterwards, I felt like, I remember being in the hospital and I remember thinking, you know, and it did go through my mind, like, for a while, why me? Why has it happened to us? And how much hurt can one family have and cope with? And I felt like I needed to work through this, not just for me, but as a family, and to try and find a positive. You know, we were told by the hospital we could have a healthy child. And back then, I couldn't have imagined actually having a healthy child. Jackie was born on the 16th of February, and later that year, much later in the year, we tried again, and we've got Blair. So he was born in 2009, and he came out healthy. And
how was you throughout his pregnancy, though? Were you anxious? And
I was quite anxious, but I went back and did an open uni course to try and take my mind off it.
Yeah.
Every appointment, every test was a hurdle. And, you know, when we got him in our arms, it was amazing, because we'd never thought that we would get him. And going forward with Blair, he knows he has two sisters, and he's got Faith, who we've got here, but he knows he has got two sisters as well. So they're not, you know, if he wants to speak about the girls, then we were more than happy to speak about the girls. I would say he's quite sad he never got the chance to meet them, but he's aware that he did have the two girls, and I like his two sisters. He's got a picture of Jackie's feet, hand and footprints as well. You know, we're more than happy for him to talk about the girls.
Just gives him something to have a connection with them, not having met them. And I think for every trisomy family, even every trisomy family that have them, you become a unique family anyway.
For us, I kind of felt like with Charlotte, we had more in terms of we had that time with Charlotte, whereas with Jackie, I do probably keep Jackie a bit more private. Again, going back to the decisions I made with going forward with Charlotte, I think I'm probably a bit more private with Jackie and my grief for Jackie, because, you know, I think the whole, and again, I hate this whole termination where, you know, ending the pregnancy. It's such a difficult decision to make, but I'm certainly more private with her. And I think the frustrated bit is not as family not getting to actually meet her, but as long as that she's acknowledged, I think that's what's comforting for people to acknowledge her as being, you know, I don't see myself as a mum of having 3 children. I've been a mum of 4, and I think it's only when I maybe open up to people that I would maybe be more open. So I feel like it's a harder story to tell. Jackie's a harder story for me to tell than with Charlotte, going against the grain with everything that we did.
But I think it's important for us, that story to be told, because there are women out there that will be facing a similar situation, and like you said, it's a personal decision and there is no right or wrong in it. It's what's right for you as a family and an individual to decide that, and no one should judge you for that. So
absolutely, but I think that decision can't be taken away from someone. I did feel at times, I wish, and in my mind it sounds, you know, it might sound a bit horrible saying it, but I wish that I'd miscarried so that decision was then taken away, so that I wouldn't have to then make that. Actually, I'm kind of glad that I did get to make that choice for her. And I think I wouldn't have said that back then, but now I would say as time's gone on, I think for her, I'm not sure what quality of life she would have had. I'm not sure how we would have coped as parents. I'm not sure. I just knowing what we were like with Charlotte. I mean, again, I felt like we were amazing parents with Charlotte, and
I've no doubt about that.
But to go through that again, I don't know if we would have mentally survived that. I think. What
sort of positives came out of it in terms of you sort of moving forward, and you found Soft again and led to you becoming the trustee there as well?
Well, for me with Soft, I felt like, having been on both sides of the fence, I felt like I was probably unique in a sense that by sharing my story, by sharing the girls' experiences, our experiences with the girls, I felt like some people might say it's easier to do one thing or it's easier to do another, but actually I think everybody's individual family is unique and everybody's decision making is unique, and I think that's the important thing. And if I could support one family like the support that I had, I just didn't want the girls' experiences or lives to be forgotten about. Soft is a place where you can keep these memories alive without being judged or the stigma of the loss of a baby. I feel like Soft's that place where it is quite a welcoming place. To me, my experience with Soft was Soft is a big family.
Yeah.
The people that, you know, I've met over the years have been amazing, and they just get you. The person I got support from, she took me from probably one of the worst places I had ever been to make, she just normalized things for me, and I didn't feel as isolated. I didn't feel, you know, at the time, especially with looking back to Charlotte, I didn't feel as isolated. And even with Jackie, because I'd known that there was families who had made the decision that we had made it, to know that other families had also made that decision and I could access that support, took the whole loneliness out of it.
I think you took something out of the families that you knew had made that decision just as much as they did as well.
But yeah, I think Soft just gave you that connection to not being so isolated. It's nice to still have that contact. It doesn't stop. You know, we're 14 years down the line. Charlotte coming up for 14 this month. Jackie would have been, her time, she would have been, we would have had 2 teenagers running around the house. And, you know, we do kind of sometimes visualise that, but it's nice to know will always be part of Soft, and that doesn't come away.
When you talk to people that are connected to Soft, you remember that experience so much more because they've experienced it as well, or they're experiencing it anyways.
It's just nice to know that as time goes by, whether it's 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, these children are not forgotten about. You know, life does go on and you build your life and you do move forward, but your children, and for me, both my girls are very much still with us as we go forward as a family. Things like birthdays, Christmases.
You still celebrate theirs, don't you? And
it's a celebration. You know, we do celebrate. We celebrate birthdays, Christmases. We do go up to the graveside, even on a nice sunny day. You know, where they are, it's a nice wee bit, and it's nice to go up there and sit. And you know, there's no pressure. It's nice just to be able to have that place for us to go with them, to go to them.
I think that's a great note to finish on. Thank you so much for sharing your story about Jackie and Charlotte, and it was great to have you part of Soft, and I'm so glad to hear that you're still very heavily involved with them, so that's great.
Thank you, Sonia. Thank you.